the path of the hero is full of suffering and sacrifice. So when I think of who most would consider to be the coolest Shiros, I immediately think of Heaven's Feel, Heroic Spirit Emiya, Nameless from Extra, Mewverse Shiro, and eventually Unlimited Blade Works Shiro. But the thing is, what do they all have in common? One is that they're heroes, be it of justice, trying to help everybody, or trying to help a particular individual. And the second thing is that they push themselves into dangerous situations that can and or do damage them in a permanent sense, depending on the story, such as Mewverse Shiro crippling himself from overusing his abilities, or in Heaven's Feel, Shiro losing his arm to then get a new arm that, if used, will not only break his body, but his mind. And if we look into some of his potential futures with Nameless and or Emiya, they strive to do everything they could to accomplish their goals, and at the end were betrayed and sentenced to death for it, becoming counterforce guardians and maybe even regretting the choice that they made, doing whatever they could to make sure another version of them wouldn't make the same mistakes. In the case of Emiya Alter, who escaped the death sentence, ended up working for the government, further straying from the path that he already was, which only solidified that way of living and thinking moving forward. Now the Shiros that I think led the happier lives, ones that were relatively normal and simpler, are Prisma Illya Shiro, more specifically Illya's, who lived a normal life as a high schooler, seemingly no trauma from what we can see in the story or manga, a living and loving family, and a nice house. Meanwhile, in today's menu with the Emiya family, which does take place technically during the Holy Grail War, the characters are not fighting, they're just living life, including Shiro, who is cooking, something that he's good at and which he enjoys. We can also add in the Face Day Night routes, where Shiro gets the best outcome, allowing him a chance at that much more peaceful and happier life. And if I had to pick one out, I'd say Emiya Alter was probably the worst of them, who may have had heroic pursuits, but took the Kiritsugu approach of causing him to kill many people, leading him to Kiara, who he knew was a problem, having to kill many of her followers who were in his way to get to her, and even having to face an unexpected obstacle, that being Taiga, who he had to kill. As the happier parts of his life were torn away from him, he would evade the death sentence, would just have him under the government's orders, doing what he's always been doing, and that's why I say this is the worst fate for the boy that wanted to become a hero, to carry on his father's dream and legacy. Now, there is still hope, because these versions of him did not have the foresight or knowledge of what the future would hold. There are cases of him gaining the experience of his future self, as seen in Unlimited Blade Works, allowing him the potential to evade the tragedies and pitfalls of his future self, or in Heaven's Feel, where he strays from the original path, and given the right outcome of events, he is able to live a happier and simpler life, spending the time with the ones that he loves and cares about. And while the Amaloy adventures are still ongoing, what his future has in store for him is yet to be determined. But tell me, what do you think about this? Comment that below, and check out the video on the screen for more Type Moon content.